Hey you guys, welcome to another wildflower card series project. So today we are going to be making a super cute forget-me-not card. We've been making these wildflower cards on craft paper and it has been so much fun. So you can see here I used a little paper clip to clip my card together so it will stay flat. I have a pencil, an eraser, two different colors of blue markers, and a gel pen, and then two different shades of yellow, and I also have a green. That's all we're going to need for this project. So the first thing we're going to do is pencil out the stems for our forget-me-nots. If you guys have missed the last few videos, we've done 3 other flowers on these craft paper cards and it has been so much fun. I love making these. They're so simple, but they turn out so well. So the first thing I'm going to do is take that yellow marker, and it is a paint marker, so it shows up on the craft paper. That's really the only thing you need to make sure of, is that the markers you pick out will show up on this paper. And I'm just going to go ahead and take it, and I'm going to be drawing in the centers along that stem that I just made with my pencil. So there's no right way to do this. They are completely random, but I'm just going kind of where I think they would be placed along those stems. So it's super simple, just some little yellow circles. And I'm going to darken up this stem a little bit just so I can see it. Another thing about craft paper is it really blends in any pencil marks and they don't show up that well, so that's nice. I'm just gonna go along this stem now, doing the same thing, making those centers. Some are on top of the line directly and some are more to the side. And then I'll do the third stem to the right. And I'm just going to very quickly add in a little bit of texture and kind of like a second coat of this yellow, just so that it shows up very solidly. And if you don't have markers, you could also use gouache paint or acrylic paint to do this. I have done some acrylic cards and they turn out really well as well on this craft paper. The next thing I'll be doing is taking my blue gel pen. Gel pens work great for this because they are so opaque and they show up really well. So you can see here these forget-me-nots that I have. They have these little buds at the ends of their stem. And they also have 5 little rounded petals. So just take note of that shape while we are doing this next step. I'm going to start out with making those little buds at the end, and I'm just going to do 3. Just little circles. You can do as many as you want. They're just random. And then we'll start adding in the petals. So this is a really basic flower shape, like what you would draw as a kid, you know, just those little rounded petals, and then fill them in. You can see here some of them are overlapping and that's totally fine. It just makes it look more realistic. This is one of the Jelly Roll souffle pens, so it's kind of 3D and it takes quite a while to dry, which is why it looks so funky right here. But you'll see in a little bit it dries and it's super light blue, completely opaque. It's great for this project. You can also layer it, so it works out really well. Forget-me-nots are a flower I really enjoy drawing. I mean, what flower do I not enjoy drawing? But They are one of my favorites. I love the color blue, so that adds to it also. Super fun. And I'm just filling it in as I go. Those petals. These pens are almost just like you make the border and then you flood it with the ink and it just flattens out. It's almost like a glaze. So you can see how they're totally random. Some of them are closer than other ones, and that just helps it look realistic. If you have them too perfectly symmetrical, it doesn't look natural. And then I'm going to move on to this next stem. I did the same thing, adding those few buds at the tip. And then I'll just go ahead and add the petals. You can kind of start to see on the left where the gel pen is starting to dry and almost looks white. It's a very light blue. Another thing is there are different kinds of forget-me-nots. So the one I actually showed you that I have the actual stem of the forget-me-nots, those are called Chinese forget-me-nots. The one I am doing right now, I don't know exactly what it's called, but they're the ones that you would find near like a pond or a creek, and they grow along the water. And they actually do have that yellow center like we added in here, but they have the same shape of petals and the same basic characteristics, so I thought I would show that one since I happen to have it. They're really pretty as well. So we're almost finished on this last stem now. Just doing those little buds at the end once again. I really love how simple and easy these cards are to make. Anyone can make these, and it's just these basic shapes, but then we add in little details that make it just really pop and take it to the next level. I love art pieces that are like that, which is pretty much all of them, and it's so fun to just see how simple it is once you get into it. And just making these simple flower shapes, like I said, these are the types of flowers you would make as a kid, but then in just a minute here you'll see we're adding in this other detail element that just makes it pop and takes it so much further than you would have expected. Okay, so here it is all dry. You can see it's super light blue, and I'm going to go back in with this dark blue. It's actually a brush pen, one of the Pentel brush pens, but you definitely don't need this marker for this. Just anything that will go over your first layer, so an opaque marker or even a dark blue gel pen would be great, as long as it's a little bit darker than the first layer. So you can see I'm just going through and kind of adding in some detail lines. These don't need to be perfect. There's no right way to do this. It's just kind of to give it a shadow effect and also the veins of the flower. just coming out from that center really will make it pop. And you can kind of see it on those buds. I just did it from the base. So I just did the same exact stroke, but I went from the base of the bud. Just do this all the way around on each petal. The brush pen does help to give it the different pressures. So if you're using a regular marker, you'll just kind of lift it off the page as you get farther out. It's really just a flicking motion with your hand. And you could definitely practice this on a scrap piece of paper before, just so you get the feel for how thick or thin your lines are going to be. This part's a little bit time consuming, but it's also kind of just relaxing to be able to kind of just focus on these little stroke lines. I also try to go along the curve of the petal shape, so on the outside layer I will kind of go outward and curve it in a little bit, and that just gives it more of the visual that it's a curved petal and not just a straight flat flower. I also vary the lengths, as you can see here, so they're not all the same length, and that also gives it some more depth and really pulls it together. Alright, we're finally on the last one here. And we just have a couple other details to finish up. So this part's kind of time consuming, but I definitely think it's worth it. It makes it look so amazing, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. The next thing we're going to do is take our green and add the stems and the leaves and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to start at the tippy top and start by connecting those little buds very gently. A fine tip marker or gel pen would work the best for this. You want something that can be narrow and it's not going to be too bulky. So I'm kind of just connecting that stem all the way through, and then I will add on little branches to those other flowers that would be visible. So any that are like out to the side, and I'm just making a little bit of a curved connecting stem. Then we'll move on to this next one. Here you can see I'm adding a little bit of branching to make sure everything looks like it's connected to that main stem. We'll move over to this last one. Alright, so now let's do some leaves. ForgetMeNots kind of have like a pointed oval shaped leaf. Very simple. We're just going to go out and then back in, and then one single line down the middle just to give it some veining. And on this bigger one, we'll go ahead and add a second veining line just because it's really extra wide. You can see that big gap right there. Right, the last thing we need to do is add the very center to our flowers. So I just have this darker mustard yellow marker, and I'm just doing a tiny dot in the middle, just very small, to give it some depth because usually the center of the flower goes down and deeper. Just really adds that final touch. Alright, and there you have it. It is all finished. You could add a little message to the top or bottom, but other than that, this project is complete. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and feel free to share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.